Yeah, I had another really wise person be able to address the answer to that, and he said, "Fucking spaghetti are just words. They're the meanings that change it." I
Yeah.
could say spaghetti and really mean fuck, bro. Yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back to Run the World Podcast, episode 19. We have Thom Shea on. He's a Navy SEAL. He's written a couple books. And we're actually recording this after the interview. And let me tell you what, this interview was probably one of the greatest things we've done on this channel so far.
To put it in the words of Machine Gun Kelly, he is a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, so we're getting him on, and you'll just have to see. Stay to the end because it's crazy. It's crazy.
All right, guys, we're back. Another installment of Running the World Podcast. We have a very special guest. I'll let him introduce himself. They tend to sell themselves short, so we'll make sure you get the full story. But hopefully he gives you a good rundown of his long list of accolades.
Well, thanks, guys. My name's Thom Shea. I'm a retired SEAL. I was in the SEAL teams for 23 years, and I have retired. And I live now in Greenville, South Carolina, with my 3 kids and my wife. I guess I should add her, otherwise I'll get divorced. And I spent some interesting time in combat, and I wrote a story to my kids that my wife ended up getting published without my permission, and it put me in the public scene, much to my dismay. And that was probably as much as I could say about myself.
Well, Thom, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. And I think I can speak for everybody here at Running the World and our listeners that we do appreciate your service in the armed forces. So thank you so much for that. And again, Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yep. Well, thanks, gents, for having me on. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. This is our first person that's requested to come on our podcast. When we got requests, we were like, it got sent to the request on Instagram, and we were like, oh, it's probably just some robot that's like, oh, click this link, go do this. And we were just like, we open it up. He goes, John sent it to me. He was like, this person just asked us if we can come on, if they want to come on our podcast. And he sent me your account, and I was like, yeah. I was like, let's do it. I was like, there's no way that it's real and they actually want to come on. We looked you up, and we're like, this dude was written 3 books already, and he's gonna write another one. I was like, we got to get him on here now. Mm-hmm. So here we are. Glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm always interested in how people how you guys are trying to start out, and I don't think I'm better or anything, but I know that without each other, we don't really do well. And I like what you guys are trying to do, and if I can be a part of it, all the better.
I appreciate it. He's a podcaster as well.
Me?
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, I did a podcast because I have a business that I teach leadership techniques and tactics, and they were all asking me, hey, why don't you do a podcast? The problem is I made an agreement to do it, and oh man, I look back and say maybe I shouldn't have done it, but it's been fun, and I get to meet people that I would never, ever, ever meet. And the people that come on the podcast, I think, are more authentic because you're not in the room with them, whether they smell or not. They can be themselves, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, very true. All right, let's just dive right in. So tell the people a little bit about your books. I know you have 3 done and another on the way in 2022.
2 done, 1 on the way. Yeah.
2 done, 1 on the way.
Is there 2 versions of the one? Is that why we're saying 3?
Yeah, there's
okay, that's
3
okay.
Then. Yeah, there was so. As everybody starts, not everybody. I never thought I would write a book. I actually failed out of my first attempt at college in English, and I was like, never, ever am I going to sit down for an extended period of time and write something. So I had written, in 2009, I wrote a series of notes to my kids when I was in combat. And I had taken a 22-man platoon over to Afghanistan, SEAL platoon, over to Afghanistan to kill Taliban. And I mean, that's what we do, whether people agree with that or not. That's the job of SEALs. And I didn't think I was going to survive it. And so Stacy said, hey, before you go out on every mission, can you write something to the kids and to me so that we get to know what it's really like? And so I would just write it in crayon or spit on my hand and put my handprint on something and tell a story of it. And I ended up surviving. So all those stories sat on Stacy's computer, and she said, "Hey, why don't you write that into some collective idea?" I'm like, "Shoot, man, I can't have a collective idea. That's not how my brain works." And so I spent 9 months trying to make a linear progression of what it was like to start combat and go over there and what I was going through and reviewing all the notes and all the emotions and trying to recall those. And I got done with what I called the manuscript. And the manuscript was called Spartan Woman, because that's how my brain was thinking about it, that I wanted the kids to know that, great men don't get there without a solid woman. And it's so rare now that you see divorces everywhere, and that's why things are difficult on people. And I'd found a woman that asked me to go to war. She wanted me to be there, and she wanted to hear about it. She wanted me to tell the kids. So anyway, the manuscript gets done, and I'm like, whew, thank God I'm done. And she didn't say anything. And she goes, "I'm going to go get it 5 printed out, like in the book form." I'm like, "Well, that's cool. The kids will have something to remember it." So she got 5 printed out under the Spartan Woman title. And then all of a sudden I retire. Not all of a sudden, but I knew I was going to retire. And she said, "You're on Amazon now." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm on Amazon? What's Amazon?" Because in the SEAL teams, you can't even have a public profile. And so it finds, I see myself on Amazon, or I see my image on Amazon, and I see a book called Unbreakable, A Navy SEAL's Way of Life. And I'm like, "Well, what do we do now?" She goes, "I don't know, but we have to print out 10,000 copies because there's already 10,000 copies sold." Which is, all that's cool, but I didn't have any money. And everybody thinks business is funny, but the worst thing you can have in business is an early success, because then you have to go in debt to pay for it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, shoot, I don't know where to even go to get. It's not $10,000. It's 10,000 times 8 to print it. So where do I come up with $80,000? Right here in my pocket? I don't have that. So I had to go to some friends who knew business, and they're like, "Hey, this is a non-interest loan. Just keep printing those out, and you pay it back when necessary." So we ended up, I say that tongue in cheek, but so it kept printing. The next month it was another 10,000. Then I was about $300,000 in debt, and you don't get paid on the book immediately. It's a 6-month lag time to get paid on a book. So I was just debt. Not even worried about the book. I'm on the road speaking about it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't make enough in the speeches to overcome the debt. And then all the money came in from book sales, and it was quite an eye-opener to go through that, not being public, to going into the public space and having a book. And I hate when warriors write books, and I'm like, oh shit, it's out now, I might as well own it. And so that was in 2014. That was my first 6 months of being a civilian, is going into debt up to my eyeballs and thinking that all my friends were going to disown me for going public. So here we are 8 years later.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know it seems like the transition between like combat life and civilian life is pretty difficult on its own, but the fact that you were just like thrown into this whole like business world, you had no idea like what you were doing, pretty much just kind of going with the flow. That's pretty cool that you were able to turn that around, and now you have a great story to tell. But going off of that, do you know the movie with Mark Wahlberg, Lone Survivor?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a podcast. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, or Marcus Luttrell was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was like, yeah, like I put the movie out. I didn't want it to go out because I was afraid like all of my like Navy SEAL buddies were gonna like give me shit for it, and like, cause like that's not what Navy SEALs guys like do really. Like they're not in it for the fame. So like, did your buddies really like joking with you and giving you some shit about like having a whole book and all that stuff?
Well, so I think there's probably 20% that totally don't agree with it, no matter what. That's until you get out. And then when you're out, you're like, man, I got to do something. And you're not trained to do something when you get out. So it's not that writing a book is a way to make money. I don't recommend anybody ever doing it. Really, it's not. It's not really how it's going to work out. It's just it's not luck either. You just got to hammer. You got to beat yourself into submission, and that's day one. And you just got to keep doing that. But there's always that. I thought I didn't try to damage anybody. I just told my story. I had to take a lot of the top secret stuff out that other guys write into their books, and it got vetted very quickly. I put it through the whole Navy system, and it usually takes 8 months to get it vetted, and or Stacy did, so to speak. So it came back in about 22 days, and the guy said, "Hey, I have no problem with this book," and so that was a pretty good way to start, and so it was interesting. But the transition got kind of absorbed into having to survive, and I think that's why I did well, as I got back into survival mode that I'd been in for 23 years. And in survival mode, you just got work to do. You turn your emotion down, you stop making sense of anything, go do work and go make money and do the best you can. So that I think is probably the greatest thing people in the military can do, is get out and just get to it.
I have two questions, one that goes way into the past and one that is kind of present. We'll do the present now, and then we can go into the past later. I saw you posted something on your story, I think it was on Monday, about, it was a Navy SEAL that posted something about like trying to get a community of Navy SEALs that like have gone on to do things and like to get their names out there, because you guys obviously gave up a lot of your life and a lot to protect our freedoms and stuff. Is that something you're involved with, or was that just something you were sharing?
No, so a guy named Ryan Parrott, he's a student that I put through training when I was an instructor, and he's now out and he's living in Dallas, and he's become rather successful, and he's trying his best to help other team guys that would benefit from an interview to get their name out, because marketing is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And just because he has such a big following, that he's doing the best he can. And I had been on one of his interviews, and I think I'd interviewed him too. And whatever he posts, I try to promote it to my 100,000 people that either I don't know who they are. I don't do social media; somebody else does, and I do my best just to help represent the guys that are helping others.
Yeah, I mean that's on a much smaller scale. That's kind of what we do too. Like we just put like our buddies and people that we went to high school with, and people that have businesses that are just college kids or just young kids that are kind of not doing the traditional go to college, go work some garbage job that no one wants. They're going out doing something kind of off the wall and kind of trying to get out there, and that's what we kind of try to do, is just put their name out there and say, hey, This is a kid that's going out of the way and doing something cool. So it would be cool. We should try to get a hold of that guy.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing now, if I may ask that?
For what?
I mean, are you doing non-traditional?
No, we're both college runners. We're roommates.
Yeah.
He's a business major, entrepreneurship major, and I'm pre-med. I plan on becoming a doctor.
You think you're going to be a doctor?
That's the plan. It's something I've been I've had my heart set on since beginning of high school.
Yeah, sure. My a SEAL buddy married a doctor, and he got out not recently, and she's helping put him through med school, and he's hammering it. I think he's top of his class, because she said all you're going to do is study. You get on a treadmill and you study, and so he's in the best shape of his life, and he's going through med school.
Awesome.
Yeah, lucky for us, we don't have to study on a treadmill because we have 8 to 10 miles to do a day every day for cross country.
So are you on track or marathon team?
We're distance. Our school actually doesn't have a track team. We just have distance. We just have cross country, so distance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which is very non-traditional. Most schools have a track team, and you're not actually like on cross country scholarship. You're on a track scholarship, and you would just run cross country in the fall as well.
Yeah, my daughter, when she was at West Point, was on the marathon team, and I thought, wow, that's tremendous. But she ran so much. She's like, Dad, I don't really want to run. I was running 100-mile races, and we ran one together, and she had burned herself out. She was, man, all I do is run all the time. And it happens, when you have to run every day and you can't have any fun time. And
oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we make sure to have a decent balance in between having fun and getting our mileage in, but we're definitely not doing no 100-mile races, that's for sure. We run 8Ks and 10Ks.
I tell you what, you would
it.
enjoy a 100-mile race far more than the speed and the pain required to do a 10K. Like it's much more, there's less speed obviously involved
Right.
in it, unless you're the top 10 guys. Like I know a guy that runs a 7:15 average 100-mile. That's out of control.
That is crazy.
But it's a fun experience. Not that this is on point, but it's a fun experience to go from competitive mind to survival mind. Like you, dude, if you do 4 miles an hour, you're going to get the top 20.
That's
4 mile an hour average, you'll get the top 20. You're like, yeah, I can do that. Okay, at 50 miles, you're like, I hate myself and I'm going to die. It's a fun experience.
Yeah, people always ask me if I would ever do a marathon, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've always had this desire to do an ultra.
Yep.
And one of my middle school cross country coaches actually just did the Georgia Death Race. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one.
Yeah,
but
know it well.
Yeah, so that I saw that and like the whole like mission behind it and having to carry the stake. I'm like, I think I could get behind that one. That one seems pretty cool.
And the terrain on the Death Race is terrible. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. And it rains every year, and you're not anticipating it. And
it's crazy.
To survive, which is what that race is.
So my other throwing it way back in the past, what's your story? How does one become a Navy SEAL? You just decide to enlist, and then they work your way. They're like, oh, we think you'd be a good candidate. Or you go in and you're like, I think I want to be a Navy SEAL. Or how does that work?
Well, the SEALs, the Navy is the only program that has a sign up directly for special operations. In the Army, you have to spend 3 years in, then you can go Green Beret. In the Air Force, you have to spend 2 years in, then you go PJ or Combat Controller. That's their version. In the SEALs, we want people that we can get right off the street because we'll teach you once you get here. And the attrition is so high that they allow you to sign up directly from the street with a little prep. So I signed up solely for the SEAL community. And I went through Navy boot camp, and then I went through what they call an A school rating. And I got I got medic as a rating or corpsman. And then I went waiting for the next class to fill up to San Diego. And during that fill-up process, it was called fourth phase. There's 3 phases of training. At the time, 30 years ago, it was called a fourth phase was where they collect all the new people. And it was a biggest eye-opener you ever had because you think you're a really good athlete. It's like you guys run cross-country and you think you're good. And then you go to a program and you're like, on the first day, you put your heart into it and you can't even get on the mat with them. Like, oh my gosh, most of the kids there were better. I'm like, there's no way that they're better. I'm doing as best I can. They can't be so far ahead. And what was interesting about it is third phase, which is the final phase, only had 9 guys. First phase had 180. And I'm like, this is going to get real really fast because these guys are tough. Even in the fourth phase that I was in, everybody was really in great shape. And then first phase weeds out everybody. Second phase weeds out the rest. And then third phase is where you get all your training. And only nine guys had made it. I'm like, oh my gosh. That was the biggest eye-opener I'd ever had in my life. Is that nobody cares about you. Nobody cares. If you can't make it, we're not going to talk you into it. Which the greatest thing young kids can ever go through is the condition called nobody cares about you. You either work it out or you leave. And that's still the same as it is today as it was then.
So these other 171 guys, what do they do when they fail out of Navy SEAL school? What do they do? They just become...
Sometimes you can recycle depending on how. If you get injured, because I recycled several times, but they go straight back to the Navy. Okay. They have to serve at least 2 years. For checking into SEAL training, you owe the Navy 2 years. For graduating, you owe the Navy 5 years. So by checking in day 1, you still have a requirement to give back to the Navy. So they go to a ship, which is usually a great incentive. You're like, man, I don't want to do that. I want to stay here and suffer. But a lot of people can't deal with the pain and anguish of the training.
What was the hardest part of training? If you can give that up, or if there is
it's every day. It's every single they get the weekends off, but when you go to training, it's Monday through Friday normally. Some weekends are involved, but not enough to talk about. But it's every day at a level that you can't get ahead of. For instance, the first day of training is, on paper, it says 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 25 pull-ups, 25 dips. That's all it says on paper. But every time you get to 24, you start over. You're like, dude, And if you break form, you have to go get wet and sandy. So an instructor goes up in front, and in hindsight, you see why it's that way. So, and I was an instructor in SEAL training too. So having gone through that and then reflecting back on why it's so crazy, the top instructor in that modality or in that thing, like push-ups, you get the guy that can do 500 push-ups without breaking form. So he goes up and does 500 calm, slow push-ups, and nobody can keep up with him. So you're getting penalized, you're getting yelled at, now you're exhausted. And then the guy who can do 500 sit-ups gets up. Now you're doing sit-ups, and now your tailbone is bleeding because nobody prepares for that. And that's day one. That's the first 3 hours. And the guys are already quitting. And then you go on they say, this is going to be our slowest soft sand, our slowest run on the beach. And it's like 10 o'clock. It's beautiful. Even in the winter, it's beautiful to run on the beach in Coronado, and there's girls out, and it's all that fun stuff. And the fastest runner you've ever seen gets in front, and he takes off like a deer. And you can't keep up with him. And you got guys running sub 5-minute miles. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't anticipate that. So if you're not within 15 steps of him when he stops, you get penalized. So everybody's getting penalized. Instead of running, it's a low crawl. So like it's a bear crawl for 2.5 miles. And nobody prepared for that. And so everybody's like, I'm out, I'm quitting. So they give you all these things that seem really easy on paper, and then they don't end up that way. And then your buddy quits, and then you quit, and then all that happens really on day one. And now it's 6 months of that same shenanigans. And it just wears on you. And if you get any little injury, it gets like if you guys get a little hamstring, you got 6 months of that hamstring nagging you. And that's another reason why people quit, is they never can get back to normal. And they're like, man, I don't want to be last again. Man, he's got me singled out. And, all right, Jonathan, you're here and we don't like you, and we know you got a hamstring injury. You might as well quit. And they're telling you that. And you're like, oh my God. And that's week one. That's literally how it plays out. And it's the weirdest environment for men that are competitive, because you eventually go, I just have to survive one more day. One more. I can't do it. You go to bed going, if they'd have given me another minute, I would have quit. So the next day you're like, okay, I feel charged up. And then at the end of it, you have nothing left. And then that's your lifestyle for quite some time. And nobody wanted that. Like, nobody signs up for that crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, when you, when people think of the SEALs, they think of, like, these, like, big athletic guys, but, like, usually they're not. They're, like, the dudes that are just, they keep to themselves. They're very low-key people, but they're so mentally tough. Like, they can just run through brick walls and, like, shit. And, like, it's crazy, like, how mentally, like, strong you have to be. Like, I know, like, we run a decent amount, and you have to be mentally tough to do that, but I can't even, like, imagine, like, trying to go through SEALs training. I know I don't have, like, the mental strength to do it. It would just be so
really
rough.
that's what they do it for, because without the mental, and you can learn that. Like, nobody has it before they get there. Like, you're not really tough until you've gone to hell. So they have Hell Week. So we're going to give you every reason. We're going to make you feel like you're dying. We're going to make you never feel like you're going to win. And then what are you going to do? So I think mental toughness is different for a SEAL than what you're articulating it to be. Mental toughness is just don't give up.
Like it's not even
every
an
day.
option.
Dude, it's like on a run. So you've already spent yourself. So you do a 5K, a competition. Now do it again. Line up and do it again. And why haven't you increased your speed? Do it again. Now, third time in the same day, you're like, that's impossible. That's how you acquire mental things when you can't do it. And you have to line up and your body's puking. Because my daughter ran cross country in high school and she would come across with nothing left. And that's when you start training SEALs. Okay, he's got nothing left. All right, line up again. We want to see who's going to line up when it's impossible. You know you can't do it. And then do it. And see those people mentally rise to the challenge. And a lot of people don't. They just give up on themselves when they don't need to.
Yeah, the one thing that I always that keeps me going the most whenever I'm running, it's like my body feels tired, but like I know that my training, I can do so much more than what my mind is allowing me to, or what my mind is telling me I'm able to. Like you can push your body so much harder than you think you possibly could. And I think that's like that 6 months of SEAL training where you're just tired every single day. But like your body can do it. People do it. Like it's just getting past that, over that like mental wall of, wanting to give up and wanting to take the easy way out.
Yeah, the other learnable mentality of that is be patient with your body, but not with your brain. Like, don't let your thoughts waver. And if they do waver, it's better to pull back from performance to prevent mental wavering. Like, it's better to get 5th place than 1st. If 1st place is going to crush you mentally, don't take it. Because you can't come back from a mental crushing. But your body, if you don't kill it, will always keep trying to adapt. And it's really hard to teach people that are competitive that. Because, gosh, I could have been number 1. Nobody cares if you're number 1. They care that you have longevity. You know what I mean?
So this is kind of off topic, but it's very, very relevant, and obviously the whole story isn't out at the moment. How do you think about the Simone Biles thing right now that's going on with her saying she's not going to compete just because that she's not all mentally there?
I don't know. So I have what I call 53 years of wisdom. I don't believe anything I see on TV.
Yeah.
I don't know what's really going on there. Is it her? Is something else happening in the background that there's a scapegoat to? Is she I have no idea. So it's all subjective, or it's all rather irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. I think she was mentally strong 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
She was on top of her game 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden there's a collapsing. And she's been competitive her entire life. I don't think there's a mental breakdown. I think there's a spin doctor in play, and I tend not to believe anything that I hear or see.
Those are wise words.
Or you get out of control. You're going to make a bad decision.
Yeah.
Maybe she said, fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Instead of saying it, she was like, I have a mental problem now. I have no idea. Everything's just up to everybody's opinion now. We weren't there.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. The one thing that I saw you post on Instagram the other day is completely off topic. You posted the thing, it was like, I swear like a sailor because I am a sailor. And that made me laugh. I was like, he's going to fit in well on the podcast.
Well, so I tried not to. So
no, you're good. You're good.
I give so many. I have given so many keynotes to different groups. I had given a 4-hour conference to the Church of Nazarene, the top 14 leaders to the Church of Nazarene, and I'm like, man, I told everybody in the audience, I don't know when it's going to come out, but it will sound good, and it will be at the right time. I'll try not to cuss, but fuck, man, I cuss a lot. and they got it. And somebody had said, hey, when you're doing keynote speeches, you can cut back on all the foul language. And I'm like, don't ever remember cussing, but I guess I do. So I posted that for somebody's benefit.
Yeah, no, like, well, I'm sure you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is.
Yeah.
And, like, that's his big thing. He was like, why, like, not, I don't mean to do it. It's just who I am genuinely. He was like, that's just, like, what's going to happen. Like, if you want the genuine me, it's just bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, I had another really wise person be able to address the answer to that. And he said, fucking spaghetti are just words. They're the meanings that change it. I could say spaghetti and really mean fuck, bro. So I'm just going to be straight.
Oh, my gosh.
And in the SEAL teams, literally every third word is a cuss word. And they have all different meaning. Like if you were to come into a team space, you would be like, I have no idea what they're talking about. It's a different language. And it sounded foul and aggressive. And that's just how guys talk. And when you're getting shot at, the only thing your brain can think about is fuck, shit, and damn. Really, that's all it thinks about. And hell, it says a lot a lot of foul words.
Yeah, referring back to the Joe Rogan podcast with Marcus Luttrell, he was talking. He was like, my mom was his mom was watching the movie, and she was like, did they have to include all that, like the foul language? You guys said fuck about 2,000 times in there. He was like, it's because it really happened. He was like, that's you know, like that's how we talk to each other.
Was probably the only accurate thing even to that movie.
Yeah. That was a crazy movie. It was a crazy movie. Like, in your opinion, how accurate is that to like an actual, you know, tour out in Afghanistan or wherever they were?
So the storyline is not accurate because
I know he was like in that shelter for months or for like weeks or something.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, say that again.
No, he was in the movie. It like whenever like the like tribe, whoever saves him, he was there for like a week or so. But in the movie, it was like the same day. Like they came and they got him out. But like, so I know that was wrong.
Yeah. So arbitrary storyline. It's just captivating, like Chris Kyle's movie American Sniper. That was not even close to factual. So Lone Survivor, take the storyline out. So what they did do well is the actual feeling from behind the gun of what it's like to be shot at and the brutality of it. And I think they did really well. And Marcus was there for the filming, and he was also in the movie. And there were like 7 other SEALs that were there advising. And so once the first shot fired, that's what it feels like. It's gray, it's scary, things change very quickly, and if you don't lose your composure, you can win. If you lose your composure, it's over very quickly. And so they fought really hard, but it didn't last that long. The movie made it last longer than it really did. It happened very quickly. It wasn't a long, sustained firefight. They didn't move very far, and guys died very quickly.
What?
Marcus was left by himself, and he floated down a river. And that's the only thing that got him away, because his pelvis was fractured, his femur was fractured, and he floated somewhat consciously, unconsciously about a mile. That's the only thing that saved him.
That's crazy.
If he'd have been there in that kill zone, they'd have roasted him.
Yeah, that's crazy. You were gonna ask a question?
Yeah, not that they can ever try to make it realistic, but are there any movies that you would say are a pretty good representation?
Oddly, there was a SEAL movie that SEALs were in. Oh, cannot remember the name of it.
I know there's one that I always thought was pretty good. It's called Act of Valor.
Act of Valor.
Yeah.
So Act of Valor was the SEALs were not given any lines. They said, hey, just go do your stuff. Any way that you would do it, you do it. We may have to cut it and refilm it, but we're just going to film you doing you. So the verbiage is the same. The emotions are the same. The calmness is the same. The calls are the same. So the combat that was in the movie was SEALs doing SEAL stuff. without having it being orchestrated. That's about as close as it gets. When you watch it, you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. Some of it is really cool. It's not as demonstrative and big explosions and all that stuff goes off. It's more point of view, and it's limited visibility, and they did really well using it that way. But Act of Valor was all the significant combat written into one story, and the Bandito brothers put it together, and as no SEAL platoon did all that. It was over a long period of time. It was the rescue of Jessica Lynch. It was other killing of a cartel guy, and all the different things that were put into one package story just for the guy to write it and tell it. So that was a graceful thing that they allowed SEALs to go there and just turn your brains on and do your shit. And the Admiral cleared them to go do it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I always liked that movie a lot. I thought it was always super cool. I got a question, and it's about some of the verbiage that I'm just gonna say the armed forces, because I don't know if it's like for. Okay, so if somebody says, like on the radio, if they say they're 5 mics out, does mics mean minutes or miles? Minutes. Okay.
Minute, yeah.
Minutes. I didn't know which one it was, because I always, like, in all the movies you hear them saying that, they're like, oh, 10 mics out. So that's minutes.
So everything over the radio is, always think of it this way, it's always going to be in metric. Not that minutes are metric. So maps are all in metric. You never say, it's always in meters. You would never say yards. So you would spell that out. You would say meters. So if you hear a distance, he'll tell you meters. The mic is a small reference to time. So 2 mics. So brevity is how you speak over the radio. If you really have to speak a sentence over the radio, the dude on the other side stopped paying attention. And the helo pilots are the greatest speakers in the world. They speak so fast, you're like, dude, can you repeat after hello? God dang. And so everything is brevity, and 2 mics is. I've had people drop bombs and tell me 15 mics. That means he's launched, or 15. No, they would say 15 seconds. And I was like, what do you mean 15 seconds? I'm sitting there trying to process what you just said, bro. Oh, it's inbound. Shoot. And I don't know why I went off track, but the mic is a reference to time.
Okay, yeah, I was always wondering. I never knew. But yeah.
And they never say over and out. It's
okay.
Over means I'm done talking. I want you to say something. Out means I'm done talking and I'm not going to say anything again. And those over, because I'm talking, hey, John, this is Tom, over. Oh, yeah, cool. What do you got? Over. So that's how you speak on the radio, so that the person listening knows that you're done talking. And then, that's what I can't watch movies because they're over and out. Roger. Okay, Wilco. Wilco. What do you mean Wilco? I know it's supposed to be meaning something, but Roger over means I understand. Is there anything else? So a lot of different things happen that drive SEALs crazy when you watch it and hear it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it has to be frustrating, like kind of like watching some of those movies that are just like way over the top, that are like not even like accurate at all, but like Hollywood has to make it look a certain way, make it look attractive, even though like what you guys do is not attractive.
That was dirty.
But Hollywood, makes it.
If I were to let you listen in to us from time you get off the helo until through combat and the time you get picked up, you wouldn't hear anything. You're like, what's going on there? I hear a firefight. 2 people said something, maybe. It was very clear. So, like, Geronimo means we got him. We got bin Laden. Geronimo, over. Geronimo received, out. That's all. That was all that was passed. And so it's the most boring experience in the world because everybody is on point. You don't need to communicate. You don't have to say anything. You can look and see what the guy's trying to tell you. But when you say something in an extremist situation, it changes everything. Because I don't say anything as long as I don't need your help. I'll keep shooting. I'll reload. I'll move. I'll tell my buddy. I'll give him a thumbs up. Once I come over the radio, the whole platoon has to address me. I'm out. I'm wounded, or whatever the call word for it, the pro word is for that. They're going to come and find me. They're going to stop doing everything to come and find me. So anything you put on the radio is very important. So when you watch like Navy SEALs, the TV program, the officers giving orders. The officers don't give orders in the SEAL teams. They don't say a thing ever. It's the enlisted guys that do all the leading. The officers just sit there and maintain themselves and their bigger picture, and you never ask them for anything. You never. So I watched Navy SEALs, and my kid watches it. What do you think about that, Dad? I'm like, I can't watch it anymore. It doesn't work that way. It's not that fun. Half the stuff they did was really fun. It's boring and tiring and hot, and I want to go home. That's usually the conversation of the SEAL.
I have some questions about numbers. How many like SEALs are there at one time? Like how many like actives? Because I know you were talking about teams. How many would make up a team, and how many like teams are there?
Well, so the SEAL program's divided up basically East and West Coast. All the even number teams, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 are on the East Coast in Virginia Beach area. 1, 3, 5, and 7 are on the West Coast in Coronado, or in that area. Each team has about maybe 150 SEALs, and then there's units that are pre-positioned overseas. There's a unit in Germany. There's a unit somewhere else, and smaller units that SEALs are there. But at any, like right now, there's about 1,900 active duty operating SEALs. There's 22,000 Green Beret. So it's a big numbers. It's a numbers game, because the reality is, with all the training, you are a 10-to-1 ratio. So one can go up against 10. That's the numbers that you kind of look at. I don't know if that's top secret, but that's how you look at tactics. Is I have 22 guys, I can go up against 150, 200, because we're going to dominate them. We just got to sustain a firefight for 45 minutes. And we shoot accurate. We're composed. And in firefights, people don't shoot accurately. They'll run out of ammo, and every time they shoot, you can tell exactly where they are, and you just slowly squeeze the trigger. And it's usually how it's done, is people panic, and then the numbers are always in your favor. And then eventually, 45 minutes, air gets there, jets get there, A-10s get there, they drop bombs, and you win that way.
So I'm about to reference another movie here. It's called 13 Hours, and it's about like the guys in Benghazi, I think it is, and like the whole like
Yep.
They were like
Two
bunker.
of my buddies were there.
Yep. Yeah, that's another great movie. I don't know how accurate that movie was, but
that firefight is legit. It's pretty straight up organized by 2 Marines and 3 SEALs and some Army guys were there orchestrating that so that it was accurate.
Yeah, and that whole entire movie, like the whole entire time, they were just like, we just need like air support. We don't need like, we don't need you to drop any bombs. Just like fly over and just like scare the shit out of everybody. That's pretty much it. But it's amazing the technology that the U.S. military, the armed forces has, and the capabilities that we have all over the world. It's just like you can't even like comprehend some of the stuff, like, and like the American people don't even know like everything that the United States Armed Forces are capable of, which is kind of scary, but also like kind of crazy at the same time to try to comprehend.
10 years ahead, technology.
That's what I always thought. I was like, roughly, but think about how crazy that is. 5
to 10 years ahead, depending on the rotation of technology that happens in the civilian sector. Civilian companies don't want to put money to new technology because it's really expensive, and then nobody's going to buy it. The camera, the cell phone, the listening material that's in it, Apple didn't put money to it. nobody really gave a shit about that for
Right.
a long time. It was designed militarily, and then the civilian sector picked it up. But there's so much technology in the Apple phone that you know what I'm saying by it all.
Yeah.
So why do you
It's
think
in that you could just spend years talking about the technology that has been put in there.
Do you think that's because they have a captive audience and the government is going to like if they're going to put the money in, they make it, the government's going to buy it. But if a civilian company makes that, then they have to convince people to buy it, and it might not pan out.
Yeah, both ways are two fluid ways that meet at the center. Everybody's like the government's a big bad thing. The government's too stupid to know with one hand or the other. It can't organize itself, so it's being organized from the outside influences. So technology from the government doesn't happen. It happens from the three-letter agencies and from the military, and then that's really what you would call the government anyway. It's not the parties aren't the government. It's how it functions at the ground is really where technology arises. But civilians don't. Like if you have a great idea, $4 million, I'm not going to do that. But the teams will need it. SEAL teams will pick that up. Most guns are designed for SEAL teams, and then they're spread throughout the military. And it's a funny thing to know is that if the SEALs don't pick it up, no other unit's going to pick it up because it's way too financially not viable for another group to pick it up. Now that the military, the government's letting loose its fingers, it's allowing for technology development from the greater military, not just the teams. The Marines are going to pick up a new machine gun that we looked at 15 years ago. So the
That's
fingers
crazy.
are coming off the Marines. They're getting a 338 man portable heavy machine gun that you can carry. That's better than the 50 cal that you couldn't carry. And we tested it 15 years ago.
That's crazy because like whenever you say like the government's 10 years ahead, so the first iPhone came out in 2007. So you're telling me the government had the technology for the iPhone in 1997?
The certain technologies were developed
He's not saying they
prior
had the
to
whole thing
Right.
together,
implementing
just like
them
some of
that,
it. Yeah.
that drop technology. Yeah.
That's crazy. And everything goes through the SEALs and then down the ranks pretty much.
Yeah, Delta Force and SEALs pick up technology quick. That's their mandate. Their mandate is to produce high-end technology before the enemy gets it. That's what they do. And you want to be ahead of, the enemy, whoever the enemy may be, and it changes every freaking year. So you want to be ahead of them, not behind. So if you find out they're doing something, you get ahead of them. And sometimes it doesn't work. It has no influence into a civilian purchase or an item. Sometimes it does. Like, don't say that. I'm not saying this. There's certain chip technology that has migrated. The lenses were migrated technology. There's no cell phone company that's going to put $4 million into a lens, because the lenses in those are better than the Canon cameras that are on TV sets. And the chip technology wasn't created so that somebody could take a naked picture of themselves. There's not enough monetization of that. They do it, but nobody was making money from that for a long time.
That's crazy.
Is there a product that you had when you were like in the forces and you were like, I cannot wait until this becomes till it gets released to the public?
No, but like the night vision technology was really growing leaps and bounds. And my last job in the teams was I was in charge of research and development for the teams. So I got to see and fund all the technologies and get behind some guns and some night vision. So the night vision in the teams was coupling thermal and called I squared, and trying to put in SWIR, which is a shortwave infrared. And we were trying to design the Iron Man suit all at the same time, which was servo motors and jet propulsion and all that crap that was going in. So one of the old timers at the not in the teams, but a guy that had been there for 20 years and then into this chip technology. I walked over to him. Dude, I'm a gorilla. I don't have any idea what we should be doing. What do you think we should do? He goes, you should put money into true color night vision chip. Don't worry about the sensors. Don't worry about the lenses that are being adapted. The chip right now, we only can analyze like 1,000 bits of information. We need a pentabit chip that's 10 to the power, it has to be able to analyze in real time more than the brain can analyze in the visual spectrum, from SWIR to X-ray to long wave and all that stuff. And he goes, if you get the chip, you dominate. Then you can have night vision that looks like color. Like it'll look like you just put on something, you clip it in front of your eyes, and it'll adapt to your eye and your pupil. And because the data that's being collected, we can't collect it quick enough. And we're way behind the amount of data that's out there. Get the chip. I'm like, I heard you in English what you said, but I don't know what you want me to do. And he goes, don't fund that project, fund this one. I'm like, oh, another sales pitch. So literally we funded the right project. And they are there. And that's why they're 10 years ahead. So there's green phosphorus that you see on TV. That's the night vision that looks green. Mm-hmm. There's white phosphorus that's very clear. And then there's adaptive AI that's reading it in real time. And eventually that will be just a clip-on module that senses and puts it right into your retina, which is an interesting data collection.
That is crazy.
And meanwhile, all that is confusing. Just shoot the freaking gun and don't die. That's really all the technology means nothing when you're in a firefight. You're like, shoot, I just need to slow down and not make a mistake. But it's pretty interesting seeing it evolve.
How much is a Navy SEAL worth? Like they've been given so much training and all this. Like they have like a dollar value. Do you have
about $1 million a year?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, I know that there's a better reference to it, but all the bullets and the travel and the training and the guns and it's pretty close to $1 million a year. Every time you go on a combat mission, it's $1 million to send the platoon out, on top of all the other expenses, because you're going to blow stuff up and you're going to expend rounds and use jet fuel and have everybody waiting. It's really expensive to move. Combat's expensive, and a lot of people don't consider that. But I could give a shit less when I was in it. I don't care if it costs $10 million. I'm getting the hell out of here quickly, and I didn't care about the money side of it.
So, I guess on the mission side of things, let's say you're on the East Coast, you're coming out of Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. When you go, you leave for a mission, how long are you gone for?
6 months.
Okay. I was thinking
you forward deploy for 6 months with your group of guys, with a lot of other assets. It's a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 support guys go to support 1 SEAL.
Okay. And that's included in your number from earlier. That was 200 on each team,
there's about 110 to 150 SEALs plus 3 support people
for each of those.
Team. So it's around 400 on a team.
Okay.
Not a lot of SEAls though.
Yeah. Damn.
I still can't wrap my head around the 10-year gap. I've just been sitting over here just making my head spin.
Apple's 10 years ahead of itself.
That's crazy.
Their technology is 10 years ahead of what they're putting out to market. They never are putting to market their top technology.
You got to think when
Microsoft never did that either. They're ahead.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, because you got to think whenever they announce it, they have them ready to sell the
instantly.
next day. Yeah, so they have to have 1 million of them already ready to go.
Yeah, they forward deployed it. They put it in the marketing spectrum and the distribution network. But their next technology once they decide on the Apple iPhone 10, that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they said we're gonna field iPhone 10. So that's the whole plan. That's really slow, and you got to get it filtered in. You go through a lot of technology gaps, and so iPhone 10 launches. But 2 years ahead, iPhone 12 is going to launch, and maybe 11 is just an increment of 10. So 12 new technology. They've already predicted that it's going to launch. So you got a whole 1,500 people developing a new technology, either platform adapted or something else, or a new software, a new chip, a new way to listen and record everything. And you think your files are gone because you delete them. They're not gone. So all that gets changed because it's an adaptive change. And I always think people are funny when they think they delete something that it goes away. Every phone can be ripped very quickly. There's devices that can rip a phone.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Where?
By the time you become a doctor, you'll have a scanner like Star Trek. Guarantee. They already have. They pretty good have adaptive scanners in the military that can articulate a diagnosis by scanning.
Or you just gonna be scanning people. That's it.
Yeah.
Just scanning people. That's crazy.
But people don't like that.
Yeah. What's the coolest thing or place you've seen because of being a SEAL? If you can even give that
The
information.
coolest thing I've seen or a place I've gone?
Well, if it's two different things, you can say that.
The coolest place I ever was in Norway, skiing in the Arctic Circle for a training thing, which was like it's a bucket list.
That is cool.
And it was one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had with people that were awesome to be around. It's the funniest thing I've seen. Oh gosh, there's so many stupid things. I don't think they're all fun. I think the stupidest thing I've ever seen is seeing we're doing high-speed boat work in Greece, and the top transom where all the antenna array is on our high-speed boats, and we're going through waves. We don't want to, but we got to get to the other shore before this system hits us. And you're only supposed to go out in maybe 4-foot waves, and we were going out in 10-foot waves, which sucks because your kidneys are ended up in your feet. And so we punched through this one wave, and it really envelops the whole boat, like we're submarining into waves. And the whole transom comes off, and all 6 of us SEALs are right behind it. And for some reason, we all had been bent down to pick up something because we'd come off one wave and dropped something all at the same time. So we all inadvertently bent down. Not because we saw it coming. So we bent down, crashed into the next wave, and that transom sheared off everything that would have been our upper body. And we all came back up, and the boat drivers looked back, and they're like, "What happened?" I'm like, "What do you mean what happened? The whole transom's gone." And we're like, "Well, what happened?" So we had their head cams had filmed it. So when it happened, the guy turned and saw the whole transom. It looked like it killed us because we had just ducked down, and we all popped back up.
Oh my
You guys
God.
are the luckiest guys in the world. And stupid things like that are what sticks in my memory.
That is crazy.
That's crazy. I got a question for you. How many times have you like gone or like jumped out of a plane, like parachuting? Like, did you have to like how many times do you think you've jumped out of a perfectly operational plane that you jumped out of? 21.
A little over 2,100.
Oh, I think you said 21. I was like,
2,100 times.
my
2,142.
That's with a parachute?
Yeah.
Oh.
I would have been dead had I not.
No, I meant, but like.
Wait, so how many times before you're allowed to solo jump?
They were all solo.
Hey, what do you
Oh,
mean?
like
You only have to do that the first time you go like on a commercial one. After you do it once,
they
but-
just sent you. They just
Yeah, they
No, you
just-
go through training. So
Right.
every time you jump, you don't tandem with anybody.
okay.
I have tandem, but not because I had to. We
Yeah.
had a heavy load, and we had to carry it and both land at the same spot. And so we had a bigger parachute attached to us, and then we broke away from that. And that big parachute carried it to the ground, and then we separated and came back.
Have you had any close calls?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't even
Because
imagine.
it's going to go wrong. It's like a firefight. Eventually, no matter how good you are with bullets, a stray bullet shot by a trichrome will still kill you, you know.
Yeah.
A guy with no eyes can kill you. He can just he can shoot around straight up in the air, and then you have to walk under it. So I had several cutaways and some hard landings that I'm now at 53. I'm like, I can feel that. Wish I hadn't done that, but there's always those short, oh my God, that I can't believe I made it through that. Not because I'm smart and I do it well. It's just I happen to make it through.
That's something else. I can't even comprehend that. I can't even. No, I don't know.
I
The
mean, you know,
heights.
23 years, you're going to do a lot of single events that
Yeah.
accumulate over time. I didn't really like to jump. I just thought it was a waste of time. And you can't really jump into combat because it's very dangerous. And people get lost, and you don't want to be on a rescue mission to rescue your own guy on a jump. Dives are the same thing. Even though we get paid to dive, they're very dangerous. And hard to get a bunch of people at one location on a dive because so many things can go wrong. We have a special team called SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team, and the diving in the SEALs, and they're active all the time. But the regular SEAL teams don't really use it as a combat insertion platform. And I think I've done 300 plus dives that are all over 3.5 hours. Just diving underwater at night for 3 hours, your brain gets numb. I think I got dumber for having dove, but shot a lot of bullets. I was in 2,700 hours of combat in my career, which is a lot of hours accumulated.
That's a ton of hours.
How do they track all of these?
You track it. You have to track everything.
How?
You have to write a report of every bullet, not pretty close to every bullet that you send, and how much, what happened during your point of view of the combat that you were in, and then you have to share it with your platoon officially. And then if you're a chief like I was, you had to write a cumulative order so that the whole community could learn about what you did, because that information is passed to all other SEALs very quickly. And because that's why we do well, is because we pass to each other our ups and downs. Like, you pass mistakes to people, and they're like, and they never judge you. You get like, wow, fuck you. I understand. I was there. Like, yeah, wanted to quit. We inserted, somebody broke their leg, wanted to quit 5 seconds in, end up carrying people all off mission. You're like, oh my God. But you have to pass all that to the rest of the community. So that a lot of things are tracked numerically and expenditure wise. So, and how many bullets and how many grenades and how many blah, blah, how many people did you kill and all that stuff. And it's all tracked.
So I think we have room for a couple more questions. All right.
How long have we been at it?
We're at just over an hour.
Okay.
How heavy, when you have all your gear on in combat, how heavy is everything that you're lugging around?
It changed over the years. When I was a new guy, we tried to be slick as we could, and because we were really good athletes and we go really fast over terrain, and we prided ourselves in how great athletically we were. And then first signs of real combat, guys were getting shot. So, oh my God, we got to put body armor on. Body armor is an equalizer. So the good triathletes really had to get strong. So in Afghanistan, I was 220, around 20 pounds average, slick, naked out of the shower with nothing on. And then I would have to weigh myself, because you have to weigh yourself to get on helos. So I was 310 pounds on my feet. So about 100 or 90 to 100 pounds every time you went out. And one mission we went out, I was that weight and I had a 100-pound backpack. But we only had to move 800 yards. That was the hardest fucking 800 yards ever. And everybody gets out of helo and you're like, dude, all right, pick up your pack. Helping guys with the 100-pound backpack. We just got to make it across this plain. We'll drop the packs over next to that hill. That was the plan, because it had a bunch of stuff in it that we needed. Holy Toledo. It took an hour to move 800 yards. Thank God we weren't in a fire. If it were a firefight, I would have just dropped my pack and it would probably still be up there. And it was one step. You could hear everybody breathing. It was crazy. And nobody wanted to look at each other because it was embarrassing that everybody felt weak. And we get to the other side, drop our packs. And then we took over this target and we sent all the new guys out to get the packs. After they're exhausted, it's about dawn. Hey, you 5 go out and get the packs. And they look at us going, there's 20 packs out there. There's 4 of us. Yeah, new guys, go get them. And they brought in 2 packs at a time, and then they were toast. They came in, they're like, we're done. That's it. 2 trips out there, that was it. I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore, and you guys can do all the rest of the combat. It was fun stories like that you never hear. They don't look good on TV because they're not sexy, and but you became a strong SEAL. The longer the sustained combat, the more strength was more important than endurance.
What's the smallest SEAL you've ever seen?
Really strong. Say that again?
I said, what's the smallest you've ever seen a SEAL?
Oh, gosh, I had one in my platoon. He was probably 5'3".
God.
Strong. So then there's what I call retard strength. This dude he did 100 pull-ups without getting off the bar.
That's
He was
crazy.
a monster. An utter monster. And he could bench 505. He was a monster.
What did he weigh?
I don't remember that. I think it was like 125 pounds.
Holy shit.
God.
Yeah, it could have been more. Maybe it was 150. I remember him just being lean and cut and massive, like cauliflower ears.
I would say he
Look,
sounds,
angry.
sounds like a wrestler.
The nicest guy you've ever met, soft-spoken. He, like, if you were to talk to him, you'd be like, he's kind of, but he was meant for combat. And but I always felt sorry for him because some of our guns are long, and you have to carry a ladder, and he'd be struggling over there. But he never complained, but it's like, man, you could have chosen your profession better. He goes, "What do you talk about? I can go anywhere. I can hide in a corner. I can hide under a rock. You guys are fucked if this goes bad. I can hide anywhere."
Yeah, my cousin's cousin was in SEAL training for a couple months. He ended up getting hurt, so he couldn't finish it. But he was 6'9", 285.
Holy shit.
And it's just like, where are they going to hide your big ass at when the bullets start flying?
There's a guy that is the Master Chief of Bud's training now. He's the guy that's in charge, the SEAL that's in charge of the training. And he's 6'7".
Oh, my gosh.
He was the guy on, what was that SEAL movie we were talking about?
What movie?
Act of Valor?
Yeah.
He was the guy that got shot a bunch of times. He's sitting in the wheelchair at the end. He's 6'7".
Wow.
Big dude.
Yeah.
4 of his brothers are in the teams, and 1 brother didn't make it.
Oh, that's rough.
And they beat him up for not making it. I'm like, I'd hate to be your brother.
Yeah.
And one of his brother Josh was in my platoon, and they were warriors, man. And they're all tall and strong as iron bulls, man. They're awesome.
That's crazy.
That is.
What how like, I know you guys are obviously like top of your class or like being athletes and stuff. What sports do you think you guys could like field a team and like go kick someone's ass in the Olympics or something? None.
It doesn't translate over. It's athleticism that doesn't really translate to another sport.
Okay.
You would think that it would. There's a study done. The wrestler would probably be the best SEAL. Swimmers tend to gravitate towards SEALs just because they know the water. There's been football players. There's a guy that was a pro football player that went through. There's been all kinds of different, but the problem is it's specific athleticism that's really just for tactics. And even if you put a basketball team of the tallest SEALs together, they wouldn't know what to do. Because if you don't train in a sport, you're not good at it. And even if you put them in a room fighting, because SEALs don't get taught fighting. Because if you're doing hand to hand, you're dead. Because there's 50 of them. Because that means you run out of rounds, and your buddies ain't there to help you, and the enemy is there, and you're hitting him with your fist. You get taught how to prisoner handle, and so you can take people down really quickly, but you don't ever get taught to fight, which is a funny conversation. But I wouldn't try to pick a SEAL where there's 5 SEALs in the room. Don't pick a fight with them. They'll skin you. They know how to skin things. So they won't drop blood. They won't spill their beer, and all of a sudden you'll be like, I don't know what just happened.
That's crazy. I did not know that you guys weren't like taught like hand-to-hand combat. I thought that was...
Well, they teach you just enough so that you understand it. Like if you have to do it, how you handle your hands, and don't ever hit anybody with your fists. It's an open hand. How to grab somebody and control them and get away. It's fighting to get away more than fighting to prove you're a man, because you can't. A bullet can take you down very quickly. And then how to handle prisoners, because you got prisoners all the time. There's a process to doing that physically so that you can win that game. And so you're always in that situation where a woman's attacking you in training and you're having to handle her, and a big 400-pound guy, what do you do with him? And they teach you what to do with big and small. But the hardest thing to deal with is a woman that's attacking you, because a man's brain can't figure that out. And they always beat the shit out of the SEAL, just beat him up, because the guy's like, man, I don't want to hit her. But over in combat, guys don't care. If a woman is attacking you, she buys it so quickly, the guy is not, he's like, it doesn't matter. I'm getting home. I don't care who's in front. If they're attacking us, they're going to pay. And so it's fun to play that reality out.
Yeah, do you have any closing thoughts?
I would say talk about the things you're up to now, your books and your lectures a little bit more. Promote yourself a little bit.
I wrote 2 books, Unbreakable, A Navy SEAL's Way of Life, which was the 13 lessons that I wanted my kids to know about me and about being a leader and about having a great wife, support them. And so those 13 lessons are unbreakable. And then I got thrust into the business world, where I have trained 415 executives through a process, and 3 simple things. The second book I wrote is that detailed process of how to lead people and how to overcome adversity. And that, I think it's been out for about a year. So 3 simple things is the second book. And then I did some research recently on my Irish heritage and found out that we came over in the late 1600s, and that my female relatives, twins, were sent over here to have 7 years of making babies for blacks. They were sold into black slavery to make mulattoes. And I'm like, I'm writing that fucking book. I'm going to write a book about how the Irish slaves were integrated into the black slaves, because it's controversial and it's ugly. And it's funny. So the twins didn't make it. One didn't make it. My distant relative did. She married a Miami Indian, and they had babies. She goes back to Europe or to Ireland, and then the potato famine happened, and they came back as a family. Like, that just sucks, man. Fuck Ireland. Don't go back anymore. But the family had passed down this history over a period of, 300 years. And I've had to interview some relatives, and some people didn't even know they were relatives because the names had all changed, and having to track all that down. And I was trying to find a book that would tell the human side of that. Like, what was it like to be a slave, and what was it like to, and the women took notes and passed it on. And I found one of my relatives' grave, which was pretty cool to find. It was in Charleston. And I'm like, wow, I'm just going to, not that I'm a good writer, but it excites me to write about that. And that's my next big adventure.
Well, it sounds like you got your hands full with that there.
Yeah, I writing for me is fucking painful. That's why I have a professional editor. I'm going to write it down until I can't write anymore, and you make it into English. And she's my best friend.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. All right, well, Thom, thank you for giving us your time again. We really appreciate you coming on. It was great to just talk, shoot the shit,
Sure.
hear some of your great stories. You're a very inspirational guy. Wow, I'm speechless. This was fun. This is a good time.
Yeah, hey, thanks for giving me the opportunity to meet you guys. I think the youth are our future, and dude, don't quit. Anchor in. Don't give up. Don't, especially when people tell you it's the wrong thing. Fuck them. They don't know. Keep doing it. And if you keep that attitude, because nobody else is telling y'all to do that. Everybody else is teaching our youth to be wishy-washy and be tough, man. It's rare, but be tough, and it works out every time.
Yes, sir. Do you have any shout-outs? Obviously, you got to shout your wife out so she doesn't divorce you like you said earlier.
Oh, yeah. Actually, to women that give a shit about their men, it's a shout-out to you. No matter what society's telling you, you make all the difference. And to kids that are trying to do hard things, keep doing hard things, because nobody else will do the hard things, and you're going to be the one standing on the hill at the end. And to anybody willing to risk the tried and true for something that they're committed to, keep doing that.
I'm ready to go run through a brick wall right now. I'm ready to go.
No, don't kill yourself.
You're an inspirational guy. I love it. Well, honestly, man, thank you again. I had a blast. I'm speechless. I had a blast.
Thank you for your service, most importantly.
Well, thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All
See
right.
y'all.
Yep. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
See you.
Holy shit. That checked like every box you could have. Like I was impressed, inspired, like I was touched at moments. I was laughing at moments. I went the full spectrum.
It was just like a frenzy of just different emotions. I was literally at the end, I didn't know what to say because I was like, this dude is the coolest guy. He was so cool. And he was so insightful too. He had so much information. Yeah. And
he knew like so much. Like you could tell he was even like holding back in what he told us.
Right. We could have talked for hours on here. But I mean, I guess he did have his own podcast for a while, so he like knew what was up. But
yeah, I'm about to go watch all 40 years of those podcasts tonight.
Dude, that was a fun episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're gonna take a quick upload break-ish, maybe, because
we'll be good.
Oh, are we? Oh, we will be good.
Yeah. So this is our second podcast recording this week, so we'll cover up the break. We got a big guest coming on next week. We have First to 11, nice Erie band.
Yep.
And that'll be out before 814 Day, where they'll be performing. So be ready for that.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We had a lot of fun with this episode. This outro has been a piece of shit. But we'll see you guys next week with First to 11.
Yep. Make sure you share this with your friends. Hit some likes. We'll see you guys later. Peace.